In one of the busiest markets in Chennai, India, people come to buy everything from saris to gold, houseware, and furniture. It's a typical market as found in most places around the world. In fact, if we were to go back several hundred years, we'd find that almost all the world's commerce occurred in places like this: chaotic, busy, cramped, loud, a sea of people and the unseen connections between them, trade at work. What's interesting about this scene and the other places like it are all the things going on that we don't see. The person on the street who's pickpocketing discreetly, the people who once knew each other but who no longer speak on friendly terms, the merchant who purchases goods from this market and then quietly crosses over to the next city to resell the same goods at slightly marked up prices. I was having a conversation a few weeks ago with a friend, a journalist from the New York Times, who recalled a similar scene from when he was a boy in India, staring at all the masses, wondering what the connections were. We know they're there, but these connections are difficult to see. So as we talked about this, the conversation shifted to discussing the mechanics of all relationships, primarily group collaboration and crowdsourcing, where people work together to accomplish an assigned task. In essence, what is crowdsourcing, and why do people do it? And what are the unseen connections between the sea of individuals who do? For some models of crowdsourcing, this is easy. For instance, those that are driven by monetary reward. There, participants perform tasks to get paid in return. This scales up and it scales down for individuals who are microtasking or if you're paying a monthly salary. The incentive in both cases is monetary. But what about in cases where the incentive isn't so easily quantifiable? I work for an organization called Ushahidi. We make open source software that's used for disaster response, community activism projects, election monitoring, and citizen journalism, among other things. These tools are used for data collection, curation, and visualization, but more importantly, they're used to facilitate asynchronous, distributed, multifaceted collaboration. These tools enable people to share ideas, thoughts, and messages, feelings, fears, concern, images, and video in real time through time and space. Tools like this, including Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace, well, not so much MySpace, allow for this to occur. But we still haven't answered the question of why and how this all works. Why do people go beyond simply socializing to performing extremely draining tasks for free, things they might not even do in the real world? Why do people thousands of miles away spend hours or even days volunteering their time to map and process data for people in distress that they'll likely never meet or speak to, or even be rewarded for helping? To discuss that, we first need to look at two concepts: currency, any system used for exchanging value, and concurrency, simultaneous interconnected action. When we talk about currency, we're talking about transactions. Someone does one thing and in return they get another. Quid pro quo. When most people think of currency, they think of what? Money. You give a restaurant money in exchange for food, or a taxi driver money in exchange for a ride. But what a lot of people forget is that money is an abstraction. It's not real. We put all our faith into physical objects that represent a society's ability to offer the exact value back to us at a later time. It goes back to villages and barter economies where a person might exchange a day of labor on a farm for a warm meal and a place to sleep. Money came about to represent trust, when a person was no longer in the locality where they generated the original value. Put this coin in your pocket and take it with you. It represents a day's worth of labor. That person then might get to where they're going and realize that a day's worth of time on one farm is actually worth 2 days of time on another. So now the laborer's done something incredible. He's retained value while moving from one place into the next. He can now leverage that value he created here and spend it here. Again, quid pro quo. So coming back to the idea of collaboration, in all relationships, something's exchanged. Nothing is done without receiving something in return, and thus all relationships can be thought of as transactional. If I think you're smart, I might hang out with you because it makes me smarter, or at least feel smarter. If I think you're attractive, I might hang out with you because it makes me look better. Therefore, friendships, conversations, or any social interaction, these are all mechanisms for exchange, and thus they represent a form of currency. The internet presents us with a remarkable opportunity to do what my friend and I couldn't do while looking at that marketplace in Chennai. It allows us to reveal aspects of those relationships and subsequently some of what's being transacted in collaborations. We can now quantify some aspects of social interaction. So let's look at the typical Ushahidi deployment and the contributions made by volunteers who weren't directly affected by the event. A disaster happens in country X. It's awful. I empathize with the victims. That empathy is something I want to act upon. It's my way of expressing myself. I have knowledge to share about programming, so I decide that's going to be my contribution. If I volunteer my time early enough, I might even make a small mark on the way the entire volunteer operation operates. My friends, who also empathize with the victims, might respect the fact that I took action to help them. In fact, they might even respect me more than they did before. If my social groups place value in the level of respect that others have for one another, as most do, then I've done what the farmhand did in the previous example. I've created value in one place that I can then spend or use in another. Group collaboration creates a marketplace where things are exchanged and value is created. Online collaboration is chaotic, busy, cramped, loud. It's a marketplace. Trade at work. So we've looked at currency, and we've looked at the ways in which social currency enables collaboration. But collaboration is more than just the exchange of ideas and intent. It's also where actions occur. These interdependent actions are concurrent to each other, meaning they occur simultaneously, because of and in spite of each other. Think of a soccer field. All the players are moving, but collectively they have one primary goal: win the game. To achieve that goal, they have to perform smaller tasks, often deviating from careful planning to act spontaneously for the sake of the team. They work together and individually, in unison and in dissonance, quickly and slowly. This is what collaboration looks like to them. This is what it looks like to us. Crowds are motivated to work because of social currency, intangible assets that offer value to others. But the mechanics of the crowd work because of this concurrent action enabled by the collective intelligence of the group. Working together to achieve a big thing allows individual contributions to matter more. In this increasingly connected world, the value of monetary currency is diminished where the currencies of social exchange and collaboration matter more. Individuals can self-organize for the greater purpose of achieving a collective task. They can do this autonomously, in real time, in more agile ways than governments and institutions can keep up. This is not the sole achievement of a specific company, tool, or platform. It's an evolution of society and technology. In many ways, it's a return to an older way of doing things in smaller communities replicated at macro scale. People who may have less in one type of currency actually have more to trade in exchange economies because they have more to give than they have to take. I feel this fundamentally represents the future of global collaboration and where the opportunity lies for radical new business models.